Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all you folks out there. Thank you so much for joining in. I am Nipasa Pradhan on Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, and I'm very happy that you have joined us. And before we move ahead with our topic of discussion for today, I have this very important disclaimer that I am going to read out. And that is by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. Once again, welcome all you dearest friends to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, wherever you've joined us from. We are streaming live right now on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And yes, I definitely got a very insightful discussion that is lined up for you today. And our topic is Missed the First H-1B Lottery, Your Chances in the Second Round. So, joining us to dive with us deeper into this topic is going to be none other than attorney Chand Parvathaneni from SPB Law Firm in Dallas, Texas, joining us once again after a real long time. So good to have you. Good to see you, Chand. I'm sure you're doing great out there.
Thank you, Nipasa. It's really good to see you again. We're pretty busy with the
Same
last
here.
month's H-1B cap cases, and it was done on June 30th. Again, now I think it's a good time to discuss what has happened, what's going on, what kind of approvals are we seeing, what are the chances for the second lottery, and just dive into the current H-1B approvals, adjudications, and going into the future.
Absolutely. We are going to discuss, friends, that what options do you have in hand right now if you missed the first lottery and if at all there's a second lottery that's going to happen. So we are going to discuss for about an hour. And you can also ask your questions, by the way. All you have to do is comment wherever you're watching. And we will quickly take up your question to have Chand answer it for you. He's amazing. So I'm sure you need any clarifications regarding your case. Tell us what is your status, and we will try to have you some answers at least give you a direction on how to go about it. So, Chand, I mean, I'm sure we were just speaking. You had a very busy month with the H-1B lottery. I mean, coming to an end. It was, I think, 1st of July since 30th of June was Sunday. So
Mhm.
you were saying 1,500 applicants and all that. How's it going? How were you able to achieve and do everything right for everyone?
Yeah. Yeah, so our law firm, we represented 300 plus employers, and we were helping all these petitioners file, and we helped file close to around 1,500 H&B petitions for the cap this year, and
Hmm.
that's kind of a normal volume every year for cap. We do a lot of H1B in our law
Hmm.
firm. We work a lot on the H1B filings, and
Yes.
we work with a lot of firms, and we do have a lot of data on our side because of the kind of cases we deal with and the number of employers that we work with. And
Hmm.
overall, I think what we're seeing, the general trend is that USCIS has become very efficient. And the way we say, the reason we say that is because we have seen a number of even regular cases. Regular cases get approved very quickly, and I've seen some cases get approved in less than a week. And in general, what that means is they're becoming very, very efficient. And that does not mean that every case will be adjudicated that quickly, but at least they have got a lot of applications. I mean, probably close to 70, 80,000 H1B petitions, and they can't process everything the same day. And what they
Yeah.
normally do is they start off with petitions and they keep on adjudicating petitions. If everything is good, they'll approve the case. If they need more evidence, they will issue an request for evidence, and they will give 90 days to answer that request for evidence, and they'll keep moving to the next case. So what, at least what we are seeing is cases are getting approved, or at least getting adjudicated pretty quickly, and they're going on to the next case. And what that means is October 1st is the start date for most of these, for pretty much majority of these H1B petitions. And USCIS seems to be working with that goal to adjudicate as many petitions as possible before October 1st, because October
Mhm.
1st is the day these cap petitions are typically effective, and they want to process as many petitions as possible. So by the time October 1st hits, at least people can start working for the employers. And that is, I think, what we are seeing. And what we are also seeing is that uh, we're also seeing a lot of cases not filed. And what that means is definitely USCIS they're not going to see everybody apply. They're going to see a lot of people, a lot of employers not apply for a lot of people. And that is the kind of analysis that will happen this month on the USCIS side. And that is where they will decide whether they have a few more slots open where they have where it is feasible for them to conduct a second lottery and announce more registrations or not. Last year USCIS came back and did a second lottery. The year prior to that, they did not do a second lottery. So it all depends. It all depends on how many people have applied, what are the market conditions. Because if the market conditions are good, more people will apply. But typically, employers want people to work for them. If the market conditions are bad, a lot of companies sometimes will take a step back, and the slots are not filled up. And what that means is USCIS will have more scope for a second lottery. And I think we'll discuss more in this session today. But overall, I think USCIS, definitely in the last 2-3 years that I've seen, I think they've become very efficient. The receipts used to take a long time. Last year and the year before that, we have seen some receipts take as long as a month to just get the receipt copy. This year, we are seeing extremely fast timelines. The receipts are coming in less than a week or about a week, at least majority of the receipts. So it looks like they have been automating their side of things. Things are getting very streamlined on their side of things, and things are moving pretty quickly, which is good for everybody involved. It's good for the employers. It's good for the applicants, the beneficiaries, because everybody wants things to be done quickly, and premium processing is very expensive. And when USCIS is doing things this quickly, for most of the cases, probably people who are thinking about premium might take a step back and hope that their case gets approved pretty quickly.
Absolutely, yes. And I know, I mean, missing the first H-1B lottery can be very disheartening for many folks out there because it's like they put in so much effort and all the money and everything, and if they don't make it, they have to restart the whole thing, I mean, the coming year. So maybe, yes, you already explained a few factors that influence the likelihood, but how likely do you think the second lottery is going to happen, Chand?
Sure. So again, so compared to last year versus this year, what happened this year is, so last year USCIS, the way they selected people was different. This year, the way they selected people is different. This year they
Yes,
went with a beneficiary centric process, and
right.
USCIS said because they're going with beneficiary centric process, and you're not going to have this multiple registration issue this year. When they
Hmm.
did the lottery selection, the first lottery selection, they themselves said that they're selecting less number of registrations this year because they think that more people will file because they don't have that multiple registration mess that we were seeing in the last couple of years.
Right.
So this year, they selected close to about 120,000 registrations, and they said around 114,000 are unique number of the beneficiaries that they selected, and the number of slots that are available is 85,000. And USCIS always selects more registrations than they have slots available because they do have statistics. They do understand that some registrations might not even be filed for various reasons.
Hmm.
So USCIS already accounts for this additional slots that are required. And clearly this year, even though we only have 85,000 slots, they announced that they have selected 120,000 registrations. So if say 10-20,000 do not apply, they don't really have to do a second lottery. And it's already a part of their calculation. The second lottery is
Yes.
only possible this year if say probably more than 30,000 do not file. So the whole question boils down to, do we think that more than 30% who have been selected in the lottery, more than 30% on average, are there H-1Bs filed or not filed? That is where I think we will see it determine whether there is a second lottery or not. And the data that we have, at least in our law firm, so we were involved in about 1,500 actual filings, our entire law firm. And but when we look at the number of selections, I think we are kind of seeing close to around 30-35% on an average, at least in our law firm,
Hmm.
the employers that we worked with, around 300 plus employers. On a whole, we are seeing about probably 30% of them not file, even though they got selected in the lottery. And to me, this means that more than likely about 30%, at least 20 to 30% probably did not file on a bare minimum, on an average. Okay, and again, we are just guessing, but again, based on the data that we have, and we have a decent sized data set. And based on that, I
Okay.
think at least 30% probably did not file, which means that there could be a scope for a second lottery, but the second lottery is probably not going to be large like last year. If you looked at what happened last
Okay.
year in the second lottery, USCIS announced that they're selecting close to around 80,000 registrations. So the second lottery was a huge lottery last year, 80,000
Mhm.
selections last year in second lottery. So this
Right.
year, I don't really think that if there is a second lottery, we will have that kind of a huge number of people getting selected again. Uh, a second lottery is probably possible, but even if we have a second lottery, I think probably, I mean, about maybe 10 to 20,000 probably is what might be selected. Definitely, it will not be like last year. Last year was, I think, an exception. 80,000. I've never seen 80,000 people get selected in the second lottery. Last year, we
Second
saw it
lottery, exactly.
based on the USCIS numbers. Yeah. So this year, I think if there is a second lottery, it's definitely not going to be a large data set like last year. It's
Mhm.
definitely going to be a lot lower than last year. And I think there is a 50-50 chance for a second lottery, but it'll be a small number. And when will we exactly know if there is a second lottery or not? And historically,
Mhm.
if you look at what happened in the last couple of years, last four years or so, normally June 30th is the deadline. And in July, what happens is USCIS looks at the petitions, they start issuing the receipts, they start entering all the data in the computers. So around July 15th, July 20th max, they will have an accurate count on how many people have applied and how many people have not applied, because the deadline is over and all the intake is over. When I say intake, they have to open the petition, they have to look at the checks, they have to make sure they're cashed. So they do all that stuff. So that is why
Right.
they take a little bit of time. And normally around July 15th, they normally will come back and announce that all the intake is over. So we can expect to see some kind of a notification in the next week or so where they say that all the intake is
Mhm.
over and all the receipts have been issued. That is the first step.
Mhm.
And once
Yes.
they have that done, they can go back and figure out how many cases have not been filed. And normally by last week of July, max by first week of August, we typically see them come back and announce a second lottery if there is a second lottery. So last week of July or early August, they'll come back and announce either way. So if you don't hear anything by August 10th or so, there more than likely there will not be a second lottery. And so what that means is probably by end of this month, early August, first week, we will have a concrete idea.
News.
But at this point of time, it looks like a second lottery could be possible, but it's going to be a very, very small lottery. Not definitely
Small.
like last year, where it was a huge number of 80,000, 77,000 is what I think they have announced. So close to 80,000
Mhm.
last year. So that kind of a number is definitely not possible this year.
Right, right. So, folks out there, you know what to expect. And Chan, thank you so much for elaborating so much. You've actually answered the first part of my first question, which I have for you. And moving on to the second part of it is, you know, with factors that influence the likelihood of a second round of H-1B lottery, and how can applicants stay informed about their chances of selection? Is there any way to do that?
I think the major factor that influences the second round is the economic conditions, the economy, and the market conditions. And if you saw in the last 2 3 years, 2020 was the COVID year. So if you look at the subsequent years, 21, 22, what happened was it there was there was a boom. There was a lot of requirement for IT professionals, and the
Hmm.
market was extremely good. So in 2021, 2022, what was happening was there was a severe shortage. So the economy was very good, at least for the IT industry. And what that meant is the employers, the companies, they were finding it very difficult to find people. And when the market conditions are good, what happens is people go ahead and do the filings. They don't typically second guess once the lottery selection is done. So when
Hmm.
the main factor is the market and the job conditions. And
Okay.
because we know for H1Bs, it is typically the IT industry. IT industry uses majority of the H1s, even though the engineering professions and pharma, they also can. They are also use H1B very commonly. It is the IT industry that takes up the majority of the chunk, and IT industry, how it is doing, how are the hiring patterns in IT industry, that directly I think impacts whether you have a second lottery or not. And this year, I think
Hmm.
what is happening is economy. I don't think it's in a recession, or I don't think the economy is dull. IT industry is still doing good, but definitely, I think the number of openings have come down. I mean, people are still hiring, but definitely not in the large numbers like they used to do in the last couple of years. So what we are seeing is people who are well qualified are still able to find jobs, and people who are not really well qualified, who don't have a lot of experience, I think they're facing challenges because the shortage is not as bad as it used to be a couple of years back. So what that means is,
Right.
because the market is not as strong, at least the IT industry, the job market is not as strong as what it used to be previously, and we're seeing layoffs. So what that means is that directly could impact how the employers have done their filings in the last
Yes.
month. And
Right.
so that's exactly why I think that at least on our side, some of the employers decided to go back and felt that because the market conditions are bad, or they might not do as well as they were doing in the last couple of years, because they went back. So that is where I think you would see whether you would really have a second lottery or not. Because if the market conditions are good,
Right.
typically they do want to file because they want to they want to have they have enough work. They know for a fact that they can keep people employed for the next 3 years, which is the requirement for H-1B, and
Yes.
continue with the process.
So true. So true. Whatever you've mentioned, and layoffs are for real, and also offices reducing their spaces because they're having a lot of, employees who are working from home and their offices from home, especially after the pandemic. I mean, we are seeing a lot of this work from home um,
Yeah,
style of working, I think. So a lot of changes have happened. And apart from that, also the visas, the fee increasing, everything has been affected. So a lot of things are going to influence this, friends, but
that's
you just have to
yeah,
stay alert, stay
yeah,
informed, I think. Yes, Chand, you want to add something?
yeah. The fee increase. Yeah, the fee increase you mentioned also is a very important factor. The fees
Right.
after a long time increased from April 1st. So this April 1st is when the new fee went into effect, and all the employers are paying a lot more than what they used to pay before. And I think that also kind of impacted
Yes.
at least a couple of employers from taking a step back, because in March they had one fees, and like starting from April when they actually realized that they have to pay a lot more than what they used to do before.
Mhm.
I think some of the employers, I think also, I think took a step back. I definitely think at
Yes.
least that's at least even probably a small factor why some of the people did not file, because H-1B, the government fees, is getting expensive, and the fee
Very, very
increase was
expensive.
quite
Yes.
substantial for a lot of people. Yeah,
Exactly. And it was not a minor increase, it was major. I mean, huge increases in the fees. So that factor is also
correct, correct.
definitely affecting many. Right. All
Yeah,
right.
because
So
when
I'll just quickly
employers
say hi.
factor into the whole,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, Chand. Please go ahead.
Yeah, what I was saying is when employers factor not only this initial filing, but tomorrow they have to file extensions, amendments, and all those things, and they're looking at the entire cost picture. It is not just this one
True.
initial filing, but their entire cost of this H-1B process, the government fee, the legal fee, and everything. So I think
Yes.
it's unfortunate, but I think the fees did go
It
up
is
from April
happening.
1st.
Yes, yes, it is happening. And we just have to accept that it is happening, friends, and be ready for whatever the future holds for us. And at the same time, don't lose hope, okay? So, quickly, I'll just say hi to folks out there who have joined us, who have been asking questions. Hi, Shaukat Ali, Akbar, Bramdev. Thank you so much for all of you for joining and for your questions. Kiran, Karan, we also have Sagar, Neha, Rajesh, Basit, Basit. Yeah, all right. So let's quickly take these questions.
Yeah.
Sagar, let's take this one from Sagar. We'll take up one before we move ahead with our questions. Okay, Chand. Sagar is
Yes. Sure.
asking,
Sure. Yeah.
Hi. In the H-1B period, can I work on 1099 to same employer and also in W-2? This is very coded. You'll have to explain these. Also, are we allowed to work with other employers on part-time or a few hours along with main employers?
Sure. Good question. And the reason is because in the last couple of years, we are seeing a lot of people do a second job. Okay, so I think his question is, I have a primary job with one employer with whom there is a H-1B, and I have other opportunities. So the rule is somebody who is on H-1B, they typically cannot work on a 1099. So 1099 is meant for contractors, not for employees. And for H-1B, you can work for a company that has filed your H-1, and that company has to pay you basically on the W-2, not on 1099. And what that means is if you want to work for another employer, yes, you can work, but the process for that is the second employer, they have to file a second concurrent H-1B, a part-time H-1B. So when they go back to USCIS, they will say that you do have a primary H-1B. They're doing a second concurrent H-1B, a part-time H-1B. And once they file that petition, they can employ you, and then you can start working for them on W-2. Okay. So the summary is, yes, you can have a second job, a second employer. You can work for the second employer, but make sure the second employer files another H-1B, a concurrent part-time H-1B for you. And only after that employer files a concurrent H-1B for you, work for them on W-2. Do not work on 1099. You're not allowed to work on 1099 while on H-1B.
Thank you for taking that up on. Sagar, everything has to be on paper, so make sure you have the right documents and do it the right way. All the best. Okay, let's move on to one more question and then we'll go on with our questions. This one is from Kiran. Kiran is asking, I do have 3-year gap. I'm trying to undergraduate, I'm trying for undergraduate course. How to cover the gap? F1 visa student visa.
Sure. I mean, I'm not sure if you're already on student visa or applying for a student visa. So if you have a gap, that should be okay. I mean, sometimes people take a step back, maybe in their academic career or their work career. They take some time off, so that's okay. But again, if you're applying for a visa, you just document that and then apply for a visa. But if you're already on F1, what you got to do is, if you have any gaps, make sure you're in touch with your school DSO, make sure your service is active, and follow the rules of F1. And your school DSO is the best person to talk to. If you ever have any gap where you're not enrolling in courses for a semester or so, make sure you talk to the DSO, make sure your service is not terminated, and work with the DSO. Okay. So the bottom line is, whenever you're on F1 visa, make sure your service is active at all times, and you're supposed to enroll in full course of study. That is very important. And if there is ever a problem, make sure your school DSO knows about it, and you take their advice, and then based on your specific scenario, act accordingly. Okay. And again, if there is a complex situation where the school DSO says that I cannot help, but you might need an attorney, depending on your own situation, check with the attorney at that particular point of time.
Okay. All the best, Kiran. I know you will find a way out. Thank you, Chand, for taking that up. Now, next, we'll take this one from Rajesh. I had H-1B stamped in January 2023, didn't travel to USA. Now the employer wants to cancel my H-1B petition. I need to go with another employer in 2025. Do we need to go for the lottery again?
So the
There's a
general rule
continuation.
is, if you have an
There is a continuation. Can I apply for the petition without a lottery system? Please advise.
So in your case, you have two choices. The first choice is, you already have an approval in the past in 2023. And what that means is, because you went into this lottery cap and you got an approval, you can use that approval, and another employer, they can file a cap-exempt petition for you based on this previous approval. So because you've been granted H-1B in the past, and you have not utilized your entire 6 years of time, so you can just use that old approval and seek cap exemption, and you should be able to basically have, I mean, if you have an employer is sponsoring you for a job, that employer should be able to use this approval and move ahead. And in your case, since this case is not revoked for fraud or misrepresentation by USCIS, you should be eligible for a transfer. So, okay, so the bottom line is, you don't have to really go through the lottery. You should be able to, if you have an employer, you should be able to utilize cap exemption and simply get the transfer done. That is one way. The other option is, if you want to go through the lottery once again, you can go through it. But again, it is not required, because you have an approval in the past, and a company can just directly use that approval and file a H-1B for you.
Okay. All the best, Rajesh. Thank you, Chance, for taking that up. Well, we just recently answered Sagar's question, but he has another question and he's writing to us. Hi, I have another question. I have H1B approved, and in same time, my F2 change of status application is pending. I have approved H1B from October 2024. Will F2 application impact, or I can have both?
Um, so looks like his H1B is approved from October 1st, 2024. So the first thing he will have to check is make sure is it in is the approval along with the change of status, or is it with consular process? Assuming it is with change of status, what happens is starting October 1st, his status will change to H1. So if he does not want F2, what he should do is he should go ahead and withdraw the F2 application. Otherwise, what would happen is after October 1st, technically he will move on to H1B. But if the F2 gets approved after October 1st, he will again change back to F2. So if he does not want F2, he should immediately go and withdraw the F2. But if he wants F2, he can keep the F2 application going and then maybe withdraw the H1B. Okay, so it's more about the timing because there is something called last action rule with USCIS. So the sequence of events and what is the last approval also makes a difference. So the first thing for him to do is decide if he wants to be on F2 and stay as a dependent, or if he wants to start working. If he wants to start working and wants to be on H1, what he needs to do is go and send a letter to USCIS, ask them to withdraw the F2 change of status because he does not need F2 anymore. He is going to be on H1B, and this H1B has been approved. So make sure you talk to your attorney who has filed the H1. Just let them know that your H1B is approved, and you don't want to stay on F2 if you don't want to stay on F2. So they can act accordingly. Make sure this F2 is withdrawn because you don't want F2 to be approved down the line and then overwrite your H1B status. Okay, so the timing is
Right.
important. Decide which one you want and withdraw the one that you do not want.
Thank you so much, Chance, for taking that up and for advising. And Sagar, I hope that you got your answer. And if you have more questions, we're still going to be here for some more time. All right, we have another one. This is from Siddharth asking, not got selected in last year and first round this year. And first round this year will increase my chances for getting selected in second round if it happens, or next year cap 2026, or each round has same probability selection. Siddharth.
So between so again the probability is based on how many people are waiting to get selected. So every year what happens is
Yes.
this year we have so many number of people get into the lottery. So next year if you have more people get into the lottery, your probability decreases. If you have less number of people, then obviously your probability is increased. But the fact that you did not get selected this year, it will not have any impact next year. So every year is its own independent lottery. So they will not even see
Yes.
if you have applied last year. So every year, every fiscal year, the selection is completely random. So it is all dependent on how many people have applied that particular year. And
Mhm.
between the first round versus second round, in first round they've already selected so many people, 120,000 registrations have been selected. So what they're going to do is they're going to remove all that from the pool. So now you have
Mhm.
those people out of the pool because those people will not be put in the second lottery once again. So what that means is in the second lottery, they're only looking at those people who have not been selected in the first
Being
round.
selected.
So the number of people have come down. Uh, so whether your chances will increase or decrease also depends on the number of slots. Last time we had 85,000 slots. This time we might not have 85,000 slots because it all
Mhm.
depends on how many people have filed. So uh, depending on that, I think the chances probably will not be as good as first lottery because first lottery you have a lot of slots open, 85,000. Second lottery, the slots are definitely a lot lower than 85,000. But again, the good thing is the pool came down because the pool is not same as March because everybody that has been selected will be excluded from the lottery this time. Okay,
Mhm.
so basically these factors will what will impact the probability selection.
Absolutely, and it's a pure lottery system, friends. Like, just totally depends on how lucky you get. So hold on to your lucky charm, whatever it is, and hopefully, Siddharth, you'll get luckier next time. Oh, there's a continuation. Siddharth is saying something. Okay. My wife got selected this year in the first round. Can I work on H4 EAD immediately along with her?
So the first thing is, if your wife got selected in the first round, the company, I'm assuming that the company has already filed the H-1B for her, and the H-1B will be filed effective from October 1st. So if she's getting her H-1B filed, you also should get your H-4 filed. And what that means is, my guess is probably your H-4 is already filed. If not, make sure your H-4 is filed before October 1st. And there is an additional requirement for EAD. So the additional requirement is, you have to be on H4, your wife has to be on H1, but additionally, your wife will also require I-140 approval. So if your wife has received an I-140 approval, then you can apply for EAD and you can start working the minute you get that approval. But if your spouse's I-140 has not been applied yet, you will not get the EAD card. So the first thing for you to do is talk to the employer and see if your spouse's I-140 is already filed and it is already approved. Because if your spouse's I-140 is already approved, you at least get a step closer to EAD card. But if the I-140 is not even approved or not even started yet, you have a long way to go. Okay. So the first thing you have to do is have your wife call her employer and see where exactly she is in this I-140 process. That I-140 is very important, and getting to the I-140 approval, it's a very lengthy process. It takes a long time, almost close to 1.5 to 2 years. So uh, whether you can work on EAD is based on whether your wife has an I-140 approval, because that is the first thing, and that is where I think you'll have to start checking.
But all the very best, Siddharth. I know you will figure out which is the best path to take. So it's going to be good. All right. So my next question for you, Chand, is how does the economic environment and the number of initial H-1B applications affect the possibility? I think we've already discussed this a lot just
Right.
now, but let's talk
Right.
about the economic environment, the current condition, and like tell us how it really affects directly the H-1B applicants.
Right. I think so. Basically, when the registrations were done, almost 400,000 plus registrations were done, and what that means is, employers, they felt that they required all those people. So at the time of the registration in March, we are seeing more than 400,000 registrations. So the employers are saying they require people. So
Mhm.
again, that's a huge number. So it looks like there is a lot of demand. There is a lot of requirement for people to work and for companies to hire H-1B people. And again, after the lottery, what happens is some people drop off. So there is always, and the reason for that is because the economic environment, it keeps on. Uh, it changes with the news. So people are monitoring the news.
Mhm.
People are looking at the layoffs, and a lot of consulting companies. What they do is they are dependent on other big companies like Microsoft, Google, Apple, because they do a lot of
Mhm.
subcontracting. In IT world, there's a lot of subcontracting happening. There's a lot of IT services where consulting companies, IT services companies like TCS, the big consulting companies like TCS, Cognizant, Infosys, Wipro.
Infosys.
So everybody
Yeah.
is dependent on again on these big companies like Apple, Google, and so on. So there is like a big chain. So if the big companies stop opening up their projects, if they stop doing new IT projects, you're going to see a ripple effect down the line. I mean, if Apple reduces their IT projects, maybe these big companies like Cognizant, TCS, etc., all these big companies that work with these other big companies, they will reduce their requirement. And again, these big companies like TCS, Cognizant, Wipro, they again subcontracted to their preferred vendors who again subcontracted to the smaller IT companies, IT consulting companies. So there's a lot of contracting work that happens in IT world, and this economic environment. Sometimes a lot of companies, because they have all these ongoing projects, they go ahead and hire. And suddenly, when the big project is shut down, all these companies down the chain, they put a freeze on their hiring and they start laying off people. And that is the reason why in 3 months, in March, even though they got their selections done before June, things keep changing because IT projects keep on changing all the time. The projects keep getting suspended and put on hold all the time. And that is why I think the economic environment directly impacts the H-1B, because uh, it is not like a medical field, or it is not like the governmental field where you can predict a, a, com- a constant kind of a demand. In IT world, it is very dynamic. One day you require people because all of a sudden they want to open up and work on a new IT project. And all of a sudden, because of funds crunch, they put a huge multi-million-dollar IT project on hold. We've seen that happen a number of times in a number of big companies. IT projects getting on to hold status. But when you look at like fields like medical, etc., or the governmental field, their demand is more uniform. They don't see these kind of drastic cuts that happen in this IT industry, which is why uh, the micro economic changes that happen in this IT industry, they play a big part, which is why we always see the second lottery and third lottery sometimes, because people, I
Yes.
mean, they have to react to the conditions on that particular day, even though a few months back when they did the registrations, things were a little bit different.
Right, right. Very well put. I mean, it also depends on what the requirements are, right, Chan? So thank you so much for clarifying that also. And with I mean, new types of jobs, even in the IT industry, with especially AI coming up and so many new kinds of jobs as well. So I'm sure folks out there are also, how to say, not just concentrating on how to be an IT genius, but also to see how can they fare really well in a different kind of an in different kind of a job, even though if it is IT, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, there are so many questions. I'll just say, folks, you just have to hang on a bit. We are going to come to each one of you. Chand is going to be really very happy to take up each of your questions, but I think it's time for a short break now. And really, I mean, thank you, Chand, for all those invaluable insights. So far, so good, really. And we have so much more to discuss. So we will definitely do that, but after this break. So for those of you all who would like to reach out to Attorney Chand directly, also, you can contact him at SPB Law Firm, and his contact details are here on the screen. You can call him on the number 817-523-8247. You can even email him law@spblawfirm.com. That is the email address. Once again, I repeat, law@spblawfirm.com. And definitely go check out spblawfirm.com to get to know more about Chand and SPB Law Firm. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408-335-6444 or mail us at nipa@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www.higheritpeople.com.
Sure, this is Nipasa Pradhan, and the second half of this webinar today with none other than Attorney Chand Parvathaneni from SPB Law Firm, Dallas, Texas. It's been great. I mean, we have been discussing what are the chances of the second H-1B lottery, if there are any chances, and what other options do you have? So, Chand, really, I mean, it's very interesting questions we are also getting from the audience. It's really nice to see that. Wow. Okay, we have our team already popping up our question. But Jan, like, what else do you have to say? What else can people expect from our webinar apart from what we're discussing?
Uh, I think what I also want to kind of let everybody know here is people are very interested to work hard and perform very high quality, highly specialized services in US. And the main
Yes.
thing I want everybody to understand is compliance. Compliance with US rules and regulations is very important. And when people come from India and start working in US, you're also representing India. And what that means is everybody is required to comply with the rules because it's an image that goes out. I mean, everybody already know that people are working hard, they're providing very high quality services, but you also want to get the message out that people are sticklers to the rules. And the reason I say that is because once in a while we see like issues pop up, And if you see recently, we had an issue where a company was involved in labor trafficking in Texas area. So
Yes.
small things. I mean, the majority always do a good job, and the very small minority sometimes do things that are not in compliance with the rules. That brings a bad name to everybody, and not only to everybody, but also to the whole H-1B program or all these immigration programs out here. So the big thing is people should use shows like this, forums out there, your friends. Be aware of the rules, be aware of the laws, and make sure you always stick to the rules. Within the legal framework, you can do a lot of things. So make sure you don't do things that are outside the laws. And things like if people are on OPT, make sure you're working with a legitimate employer. Do not let the employer force you to submit a fake resume or a false resume. We have seen people come to us and complain that their employers are forcing them to submit false green cards, false approvals. You're going to get in trouble, and you'll if USCIS catches you, you'll have permanent bars. So the thing is, be aware of your rights. It's US gives you a lot of rights. So within the framework of your rights, you can do a lot of things, a lot of legal things. So be aware of your rights, and don't do anything that is going to be against the law. And don't let your employers pressurize you to submit false resumes, false documents, false approval copies. It's going to get you in trouble. If you look at the Princeton, Texas case that happened earlier this week, it's a huge case, and there are a lot of student victims. Okay, so people, I mean, they were living in bad conditions. They were being forced to do things that are not legal, and so on. Okay, so use talk shows like this, forums like this, and talk to your friends, educate yourself, and if you're in any doubt, uh, talk to people and clear up your doubts. Okay, so don't do things because you're pressurized by your employers, and same thing with the employers. Always, if in doubt, check with the attorneys and check with other companies that you deal with, but don't let do not get carried off and do something that is not legal, and always be compliant with the rules. Within the legal framework, there's a lot of US gives you a lot of rights. Use your rights. Okay, so exercise your rights, but don't do something where you could get into trouble. And the way to avoid it is talk to people. Talk to people. Talk to keep yourself educated and know the rules.
So true, so true. And I mean, how can you like do things which are not morally right? I mean, you have to stay true to your conscience as well. So I hope, friends, that you do not get into things that are not really right, be on the right track always and do things that are only good.
I
And
mean,
you're
yeah,
going to go to
yeah.
America
There
to
are a lot
live
of
your,
things,
yeah, sure, Chand.
and there are a lot of things that don't come in the news out, but we see it. And the common example I
Yes.
see is a lot of times people, again, it is not frequent, but it happens time to time. People get deported at the airport. So they come to US, they land at the airport, they get deported back. Happens all the time. It's not in the news, but it is happening. And what happens is the CBP officers, they have every right to question people who are coming into the country. They have every right to take your cell phone, take your laptop. They can go through your cell phone. And if they find something that where they feel that you're misrepresenting something, things like, I've had cases where the CBP officer, they took the cell phone. On the cell phone, they saw fake resumes, fake approval copies, fake pay statements, and it was very clear. And people got permanent bar. They permanently got barred from US. They got put on the flight, sent back. And this is not hearsay. These are cases that we have seen. We have been seeing this year. We have seen it last year, and we see it all the time. So people think that their employer makes them submit a fake resume, submit fake approval copies. There is a good chance that USCIS will find out, or there is a good chance that CBP will find out. And the day they find that out, they're going to get deported back. And this is happening all the time. So just be very, very cautious. Okay, so don't let anybody pressurize you to do something, especially when you know that it is probably illegal.
Yes. Research, friends, research again and again, because that's the only way that maybe you will also not get cheated. I mean, talk about the Princeton case. They were brought to learn JavaScript or something, but then ended up getting cheated. I mean, they had to not only pay a part of their salaries, but I mean, we were talking about human trafficking, so stuff like that, right? So yes, internship has JavaScript. So if you talk about the Princeton case, I think read about it, get to know more about it, and stay alert, and no matter where you're getting your job, like do good research, find out more and more, and be clear about what company you're joining also, just to stay safe. I think research is the only way you can stay safe. All right, so yeah, I mean, we were having this question. Basit is asking, I recently joined a FANG company who is processing my H-1B transfer in premium filing under change of status. My previous employer has not yet revoked my H-1B valid till 2026, despite my December 2023, despite my 2023 layoffs. So I also have an approved I-140 form from 2022. Currently, I've applied for H4 and H4 EAD, still in received status to maintain my US status. Okay. Considering a consular process, but Fang's lawyer prefers COS, so I'm seeking for advice.
Yeah, normally if if the H-1B transfer was filed after 60 days of the layoff, we also prefer doing it as change of status, not as H-1B to H-1B transfer, but rather than H4 to H1 change of status. If the H-1B transfer is filed more than 60 days after your termination, because before 60 days you can do it as a H-1B transfer, H-1B to H-1B, but the minute you cross 60 days, technically your H-1B status is not valid. So, but again, looks like clearly this the viewer Basit looks like he has filed a H4. So looks like he has followed the rules, and before the 60 days is over, he made sure that a non-frivolous H4 application was filed with USCIS. So that is a good thing. But now because there is an H4 and now he got a job, so it is coming from H4 to H1. So I would do it as a change of status, because that is probably what USCIS would want them to do. And now what USCIS would do is they'll go back, they'll make sure that the H4 was filed timely. And since it is filed timely, Basit should be eligible for a change of status.
All the best, Basit. Thank you for your question, and thank you, Chand, for taking that up. Well, I think we're having a lot of viewer questions, so I think we'll just take them up for today. And yeah, this next one, Vishnu Vardhan, very frequently, our frequent viewer. I know this because it's a very familiar name. So, hi, Vishnu, good to have you again, once again on our show. Tell us where you're joining us from, since you keep commenting. I would really like to know where you've joined us from also. So, Vishnu is asking, how long does it take to get approval notice in regular processing from USCIS?
So again, every case is different. And for the cap cases, I had some cap cases we filed on June 28th, 29th, and in a week we saw an approval. Again, not every case gets approved that quickly. But again, what we are seeing is some cases are taking a very, very short time, and some are taking a long time. Again, if you ask us what is the average you're looking at, if it's a regular transfer case or an extension case, a lot of cases are getting approved between 2 to, I would say, 4 months, a lot of cases. However, some cases will always take time, maybe because they need some more background checks and various other reasons. But again, 2 to 4 months is where I can expect a lot of cases to be approved. So normally what we suggest is file it under regular processing if you don't really have a need to really expedite the case. And 2 to 4 months is probably reasonable. And anything more than that, probably, again, you'll just have to see. But things have become a lot more quicker than what they used to be a couple of years back across the board, whether it's cap filing or whether it's a transfer amendment and so on.
Okay. There's a continuation. Vishnu is actually asking another question. What are the documents needed for consular processing?
Consular processing means, consular processing means somebody's got a H-1B, but they're going for stamping at the consulate. So when you go for stamping at the consulate, so what you require is basically you need a copy of your H-1B approval. That's a mandatory thing. Then you need a letter from your employer saying that the job as per the H-1B approval is still valid, and some details about that job. So these are like the mandatory things. A letter from the employer confirming the position, the H-1B approval copy. These are the mandatory things. And normally what companies also do is, as a good practice, they give documentation about their H-1B, their entire H-1B file, their supporting documents, what they have filed. and any client letters or vendor letters if applicable, any project documentation if applicable. So these are all the things that they additionally give. But the H-1B approval copy and the letter from the employer with the current date confirming that the position is still available. These two are the main things. And just like any other person that goes for H-1B stamping, you go for H-1B stamping. And that's pretty much is the consular processing.
Okay. He's saying, I mean, the case is already approved, but I would like when I-797 copy will reach out to me. Okay.
If the
And
case is
Vishnu is
approved,
joining.
got it. So normally, if online, if you see the case has been approved, say today, normally what happens is in the next day or so, USCIS will mail the physical copy, and normally we see about anywhere between 1 week to 2 weeks. So a week is probably the minimum that might take for that approval copy to show up at your employer's or your attorney's office. Maybe max 2 weeks. So a week to 2 weeks is probably what you can expect for the hard copy to reach your attorney's or your employer's office.
Okay. So nothing to worry about, Vishnu. It's going to reach. Just stay patient. And thank you so much for your questions. And yeah, thank you to you too. Okay, you're joining from India. That's really good to know. All the best. I know it's going to be good. Yeah, stay patient, I think. And thank you, Chand, for taking these questions for Vishnu as well. Our frequent visitor, our frequent viewer. All right, let's move on. Now, the next question. This one is from Raul. Is it fair to assume that there will be no second lottery this year, or are there still chances for one? I didn't get selected in the first one, and kind of hoping if there are still chances through a second one before packing our bags and going back to our home country. Okay. I am on L1A with PD in January 2024, and the company is not doing well financially. Thanks for your answers in advance.
I think there's a slight chance of a second lottery. Probably not a great chance, but I think definitely there's a chance, and there's a chance for at least a small number of selections. Not like 80,000 like last year, but I think at least definitely a small reasonable number I think could be selected in second lottery. But again, I think if we do have a second lottery, I think we'll definitely know by around max by around August 10th. That's my guess. So anything after August 10th, I think the chances are very, very low. So I think between now and August 10th, maybe next 2 to 4 weeks, I think we'll definitely have a confirmation either way. And say by August 10th or so, if we don't hear anything back from USCIS, at that point of time, I think we can reasonably assume there might not be one. But at this point of time, I think I'll be optimistic. There is a slight chance of a second lottery, is what I feel based on the data that I'm looking at this point of time.
Me too. I'm very optimistic about that. What about the second part? I am on L1A with PD in January, and the company is not doing well financially.
Yeah.
Any advice that you want to give?
Yeah. So I think, I think there is a risk that he might be laid off from a job, or he wants to go back because the company is not doing good. And if he has a H-1B filing done, I think there's a chance that he might be able to stay back and work on H-1B, assuming it's a different company. So I think his H-1B filing, I think, will kind of impact his decision whether he needs to go back or not. So I would say probably in the next couple of weeks, I think you'll have your answer. I mean, a confirmed answer. Okay, I don't think they'll take long. I mean, definitely, I think end of this month, max around first week of August, I think you'll have a better idea.
Right. Till then, I think, Raul, I think it'll be very wise to not make any decisions and just stay hopeful. All the best, Raul. Thank you for your question. And thank you, Chand, for taking that up. Let's move on to the next question now. This next one is from Dharmesh. I haven't heard anything from my employer regarding H-1B lottery results yet. My employer is doing H-1B registration for the first time. Do they get notified via email about the selection by the USCIS?
So USCIS does not send an email with the names, but what the employer has to do is the employer will have a login and password to the My USCIS portal, the same portal where they did the registration. So they just simply have to log into the portal, and then the portal will tell them if the selection is, if the lottery has been, the registration has been selected or not selected. So it's a very simple thing. Just have your employer log into the portal, the same portal that they registered you, and have them check. And they should be able to figure it out very quickly.
Yes. All the best, Dharmesh. All right, let's go on to the next question we have now. Can we have the next question? Okay, let's take up Kiran. Can we talk about F1 visa? Do I have 3-year gap? I'm trying for undergraduate course. Okay, this one I think we've already taken up, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we already took this up. What about Karan? Karan's I think we haven't taken. Karan says, I got selected for H-1B lottery this year. Had a question. If I can pay the H-1B premium processing fee if the employer is not willing to do premium instead of regular, means can he pay for the premium processing?
Yeah. So H-1B premium processing fee is pretty much the only fee that you can pay for H-1B. That the premium processing fee, it's the employer's choice. The employer can pay for it, or they can require the employee to pay for it. Only the premium processing fee. And right now, the premium processing fee is $2,805. So the $2,805, employee can pay for it. The H-1B filing fees, everything else should not be paid by the employee. The premium is optional.
Okay. All right. So there you have your answer. Thank you so much, Karan, for your question. And I think we're done with all the questions we have currently because we concentrated on all the questions from our viewers. I'm so glad we could cover them up. So I'll say thank you so much, each one of you, for your very interesting questions, because you made this webinar an even more interesting one apart from my questions, because these are like your real status questions, and I hope that it was helpful. I hope that you resonated with the answers that Chand provided with to you, and also the advisors. So yeah, I think thank you, I would say. But before we go, I have a few more questions, and I think we can take one of them at least, Chand. So my question to you is, during the processing of an H-1B petition, about what are the important documents and forms which the USCIS review, and how can employers really stay updated on the status of their application?
So regarding the status of the application, every H-1B petition, you'll get a receipt number. So the best way is take a look at the receipt number, go online, and look at my USCIS website. And the USCIS website will at least tell you what's happening with the case. Are they actively processing the case? Is there an RFE issued? Is there a decision issued? So that part, employer can check on the USCIS website. And during the processing of the petition, USCIS mainly looks for a couple of things. One, they will look at the job. What exactly is the job? Is it a specialized job? The job as a position. So USCIS is going to focus on the position and make sure it is a specialized job. If I say something like, I just need an office assistant, for example, they're not going to agree that it is a specialized job. It's a generic job that does not require a specific specialty degree. So that is what they're looking at. They want to make sure that it is a specialized job. For example, you say a software developer. Everybody understands that to do those duties, a bachelor's degree in a computer science or a related field, it's normally an industry standard. So that is what they're focusing on. They're really focusing on the position. The second thing they are focused on is the employee, the beneficiary. They want to make sure the beneficiary is actually qualified for the job. So if you say, I need a software developer, and the employee does not even have a degree, they're going to complain and talk about the beneficiary's qualifications. So they're really focused on what are the qualifications of the beneficiary, the academic, the work experience. So the position and the beneficiary. These two are very, very critical. And the final thing that they mainly look at is the company that filed the petition. They're not worried about, is it a big company, small company? Is it like, so what they're focused on is the company a legitimate US company? That is what they're worried about. If it's a small company, they're fine with it, as long as the company is legitimate and as long as they do have work for the employee. So it is more about the legitimacy of the company. And what that means is the company actually in US? Is the company actually doing business? Is the company actually paying taxes? Is it a company that's actually having US operations? That is what they would focus on. So as a whole, the company is a legitimate company. the position they're offering is a specialized position, and the employee is qualified for that specialized position. So overall, this is what USCIS looks at before they approve the H-1B.
Okay, thank you so much, Chand. And I think maybe last but not the least, I would really like you to give out a message, for folks out there who are looking for a US visa or maybe ways to go and have their future out there in the United States. So, um, a short message, maybe within 2, 3 lines, what they have to keep in mind. It would be great.
Sure. So the main thing is, I mean, get information on what kind of options you have, because people come to US for various reasons, either for studies. If it is studies, know the kind of visa you're going to apply for, F1. Know the requirements. If it is you wanting to come to work, US has a couple of options. H-1B is the most popular, but there are other options like a P visa, OO visa, etc. So get educated on what kind of visa is relevant for your job. Okay, and then research on that. Okay, and for employment, you have to find an employer. So the big part of employment is finding the right employer. So you might talk to your friends, get references, find the right employer, and then start the process required for that visa. And finally, the big thing is know the rules. Okay, so once you find the reason why you want to come to US, whether for studies, whether for work, maybe it's for travel, maybe it's for business, just a business small meet and go back. Know the requirements of the visa, know the rules that are relevant for that visa, follow the rules. And what that also means is you have to go for the visa stamping, convince the visa officer on your intent, and clearly talk to them about what you want to do, and make sure you're in line with the requirements of your visa.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chand, for that. And really, Attorney Chand, thank you so much today for this whole session, for sharing your expertise with us. And of course, your insights have been incredibly helpful, and especially for those out there navigating the complexities of H1 lottery, and they're looking forward for, another lottery. So thank you so much today for doing this.
Thank you, Nipasa.
Yes, it was really great to see you and to have you here with us after a real long time. I hope that you will not be too busy now anymore, and I hope that we can have you every week. And I'm looking forward
Sure.
for maybe this coming week again for another session.
Sure. Yeah, sure, Nipasa. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day ahead.
Yeah, you
Folks, you
too.
can
Yeah. Bye-bye.
contact Attorney Chand, yes, directly also. You can call him on the number 817-523-8247 if you have questions to him directly. And sometimes he may be busy and may not be able to answer your call. So why don't you leave him an email, write to him at law@spblawfirm.com. And to get to know more about Attorney Chand Parvathaneni and his law firm, SPB Law Firm, check out this website, spblawfirm.com. Thank you, Chand.
Thank you, Nipasa. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And to our audience also, really, thank you so much for tuning in, and not just tuning in, but for your very interesting questions as well. You make these sessions even more interesting. So I'll say thank you to each one of you. And if you haven't as yet subscribed to our channel, please don't forget to do that. And, hit the bell icon, because we keep having discussions like these, and also updates. So keep a check on our channel. Our handle is Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. We are not only on YouTube, but also there on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, on Instagram as well. Check us out, follow us, subscribe to us. It'll be great to stay connected. I'm also there, by the way, on LinkedIn. My page is Nipasa Pradhan. Just check me out and connect. It'll be really nice. So also, if you're looking for project placements, green cards, or any assistance with regard to jobs or immigration, reach out to us. You could check out our website, www.higherITpeople.com. And you can even reach out to me. You can call me. You can WhatsApp me on this number, 408-335-6444. And my email address is nipa@higherITpeople.com. So feel free to connect with me. I'll be more than happy to hear from you. Thank you once again, viewers, for joining us today. It was a great time indeed. And until next time, you all just take care, stay safe, and stay tuned on our space, Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. Bye-bye.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408-335-6444 or mail us at nipa@higheritpeople.com or visit our website